and welcome to today's program as the World Affairs Council of Greater Houston hosts a conversation with Flor Dimassi, Council's global leader of influence. I'm Sandia Bayo, Director of Development at the World Affairs Council of Houston. It's our hope that you and your families are being well and staying healthy. Now more than ever, it is important to stay informed about what is happening not only in our city, but around the world. The World Affairs Council of Greater Houston brings foreign affairs experts right into your home. Flor, welcome.
Thank you, Sandia. Thank you for the opportunity to be here and to share my story and my thoughts with others. I appreciate that.
Wonderful. First, wanted to check in and see how you are doing, how your family is, and how is the whole team of Global Speak Translation doing?
Well, we're doing fine. Thank you. We are just following all the guidance and the advice from the CDC, from everywhere, all the information that is around us, trying to more than anything be safe. So that we can have our family safe, we can continue and protect our business. As you know, that's an important thing as well, making sure that that we are also being safe and not being out there putting others at risk. And still the situation right now, it's a little bit critical. But Global Speak is fully operational. All of our employees and our team there, we're making sure that they have what they need, that they are safe, that their families are safe, so that we all can continue working and operating as normal.
Very, very glad to hear that everybody's doing well and have adjusted to the new environment. So yeah, thank you. Good to hear that. Flor, you have dedicated a lot of your career to different involvement in this city and improvement of the community that you live in. I know you're very proud of it and you say it out loud, and it's so wonderful to hear that. There's so many other accomplishments that you have from your career and so forth. So if you allow me just to highlight some of the things that are in the resumes for our viewership to know you a little bit better. I'll start with definitely recognizing first is that you are the CEO of the Global Speak Translations. You are also started in one of the first entrepreneurial venture in 1992, and you were one of the original founders of such a well-known Dimassi's Mediterranean restaurants. You're a strong believer, like I said, giving back to the community and partnering with the various projects, organizations that support Houston. Actively engaged in community-oriented organizations such as Life Gift, the Boy Scouts of America, the Houston Food Bank. You also serve in numerous boards, just a couple of them, Center for International Studies at the University of St. Thomas and International Society of Mexico Energy. You have been recognized, again, many, many ways. A couple of those are as the Woman of the Year by Sola Mujeres magazine and received Excellence in International Service by Houston International Trade Development Council. Wow. That I think just showcases that diversity, variety, and involvement really in community in so many levels. Like I said, you do so much and you do it very well. Wanted to ask on that, any best practices that you could share with us and with our future global leaders? How do you select what you to participate in? Is it based on your interest? What drives you there? And how do you find time? And of course, that you're able to deliver on those obligations and expectations.
Well, Sandia, you know, all of the things that you mentioned reminded me of all the hard work that it is behind all of those accolades and all of those recognitions. And as you know, it's at the end of the day is Flor Dimassi, but there's an entire team of people that had helped me to get to where I am. And that is why the need of giving back, right? That's why Global Speak Translations has selected three communities, three organizations that we have in our community in order for us to give back. We have Life Gift, the Organ Donor Foundation organization. We have Boy Scouts of America and also the Food Bank. And taking away all the politics, any politics out of this equation, we chose these three specific organizations for a reason, because they are part of supporting the development and the continuation of life. it is important for us as an organization to always give back. And it is a passion of mine to do it with children. So anything that has to do with children, the family, I do believe that that's the core for our society. And that's how we become a better community.
That's completely agreeable. And as you know, we're also very active as a council in education, and I'll touch on that a little bit later on the conversation. So definitely appreciate it. I don't think I really gotten to ask you before. What led you to starting the translation business? How did that come about? I'm sure there was a story.
Oh well, it is moments like now, like the COVID-19 that we're going through, some unpredicted
Yeah.
difficulty in life. In my case, that has gotten me to have the next company. At the beginning, for example, with being a founder of Dimassi restaurants, that was my first big entrepreneurial adventure. And then following that, I found the reason why Global Speak Translation started was because I found myself in a predicament. I didn't have the restaurants anymore. I've lost what I had built for, and it was time for me to start a new venture.
Yeah.
So I was working back then for an oil and gas industry, and I was part of a team that was managing a vessel. It was a fiber optic. We were installing fiber optic cable through Latin America, and we were managing the Ocean Hercules. So part of my responsibilities was to just coordinate and to help, but I was the only female in the team, and they found out, well, Flor speaks languages. We have a manual and we have divers, and this document has to be translated into Portuguese. So I remember my boss coming into my office and says, "Hey, Flor, this is a 300-page manual. We need to translate it into Portuguese." And
by tomorrow.
Exactly. And then I said, "But I speak Spanish." And I remember him saying, "You'll figure it out. You're smart enough to figure it out." And I knew, and I thank him so much now when I see him, that he had faith in me and that he challenged me because he knew what he was doing. It's not that he didn't understand the difference between Spanish and Portuguese. He knew that somehow I was going to get it done. So I started forming teams of people that had the background, because this is very technical information. We're talking about diving and ROVs and
critical, right? Life
critical. And even we needed also the advice of geologists and naval architects. So it was a combination of people, experienced people that had that knowledge in order to translate this. And they needed to be bilingual. So anyway, I started doing my research and forming groups of people that could help me. And this is actually the beginning of my second entrepreneurial adventure, because I had teams of Portuguese translators. The second floor of that company heard, "Hey, the girl on the first floor can translate into Portuguese. Oh, well, I have a French document and I have a Spanish document." So all of a sudden I was translating full time. It was a full, and then it occurred to me, well, I'm not really coordinating a project here. I am managing a small little company within another company.
Yeah.
So it was time for me to just adventure. And it is hard. It is hard when you are comfortable in a situation and you don't want to change. But I said, I'm going to take the leap. I'm going to see where this takes me. And now,
glad you did.
And now I'm running a global operation, and I am, very proud, because I think when I was younger, I was more, I dared. I was a daring person. I adventured to take the risk, and I did.
That's wonderful. That's really good to hear, and very inspirational. Congratulations on that. I don't know if you know, but a little bit about Sandia, but I'm also an authorized translator by the Embassy of Latvia. So my mother tongue Latvian, so I can understand the challenges and opportunities that having another language, what that means.
Very good to know.
What other languages do you speak? Obviously, Spanish you referenced.
Spanish. I am originally from Torreon, Coahuila, Mexico. That's where my story began.
Mm.
I spent 15 years of my life there, and now the rest here in Houston. Uh, I come from a family of immigrants. We migrated to the U.S. when I was 15 years of age. And when I went to college, I had the opportunity to study abroad in Paris. So
Nice.
I was able to study French and French literature, and to more than anything, to have the exposure to other cultures. As you know, in Europe, you see the Spaniards and the Italians and French and German. So I studied at the at the University of I'm sorry, at l'Alliance Française,
Uh-huh.
and I had the opportunity to have that exposure to other cultures there, and that's where my passion for languages uh, started.
Sure. Yeah, it's in Europe is that you have that concentration of so many cultures and languages, and it's wonderful actually that. I wanted to say ask about the Global Speak a little bit. Anything else that you might want our viewer to know about Global Speak that we haven't mentioned yet?
Well, as you know, Global Speak specializes in technical terminology. And what does that mean? What is technical terminology? It's very specific. It's a specific niche because it employs people, it employs translators that have that specific background, right? All our translators are either geologists, naval architects, civil engineering, mechanical engineering, chemists.
Yeah.
There are people with that background because the material that we have to translate is very specific, very intricate. Either you know it or not. There's no way you can Google. There's no way you can study or go in the internet and try to figure out the terminology because now this is constantly changing. So if you are a geologist, they make sure that they are constantly with the change, knowing the latest technology, the latest terminology, et cetera, et cetera. So that's who we are, and 80% of our work, at the material that we work with, has to do with technical terminology. Of course, we do legal. That also goes hand in hand, financial, and marketing. And the other 20% is more educational in the arts, et cetera.
Oh, wonderful. How large is your team? I don't think that know that.
We are about 40
Wow.
of us. We have 40 people that we work with
Wow.
constantly. So
Yeah, quite impressive.
we're,
How do you find balance? I know that managing team assignments and other things that other commitments that you have balance in your life. I know I've seen some photos of you and your team with bicycling attire.
yes. And I'm wearing right now my cycling shirt. And
Oh,
I have some news to share with you that just this week, our Global Speak racing team, we've completed 5,000 miles
oh, wow.
altogether. So yeah, so it's been quite an accomplishment for all of us, and it is something that we do because it is a way for us to be balanced, to be healthy, to distress, to be able to also cycling is a sport that requires a lot of focusing. You need to know exactly where you're going and what you're doing at all times, even though it's a sport that you can do in a group or alone. It is really an individual sport that you have to be careful with and focus. And I don't know if I mentioned to you, but Global Speak also cycled 1,600 miles, and we um, donated $1 per mile for the Houston Food Bank.
Oh, I
So
did not know that.
that was another thing. That money provided 4,803 meals for Houstonians, and that was something that I was very proud of my team, that they came up with that idea, and that we did that. Even though we benefit from cycling, and it is
Yeah.
something that we do, we also uh, share, and we also did something for our community.
It's a kind of multifold effect, right? That it's so many boxes were satisfied, and ultimately you were able to enrich the community you live in, as we heard from the beginning, and give back to those in need. So that's very, very thoughtful of you and your team.
Thank you, Sandia. This is something that I always share with other women leaders, with everybody, men, women, with everyone, because cycling to me, it keeps me balanced. It does a lot of good to me. That is when I have my best thinking. That is when I find the resolution for problems that I have. That's where I plan my day. That is where I have the deepest conversations with God. This is honestly my experience when I cycle out. I know that's my time for myself. That's when I distress and I recharge my batteries, and I come back again to manage my company.
Oh, it's again back to the balance of life and obligations. That's great to hear. I mentioned earlier, and I'm sure you know this too, that education is a very important mission of our council. We educate not only current members and always looking for greater reach, but participation with high school students, university students is very important, because again, it's our way of giving back to community and giving inspiration, and especially for students, perhaps it's their career path that the interaction with us kind of lead them to. We had reached out to some of the students and asked for questions that they might submit for me to ask you. So some of the upcoming questions will be coming from our high school students and the Student World Affairs Council members. So one of them is, what was your first encounter, or was it a book, or was it a trip that helped you inspire about the world? Leaving from your home, we of course heard the immigration story, but was there something that maybe brings back the memory that was quite inspirational and changing?
I remember that when I was studying abroad, that really inspired me. That's when I knew that I was going to be an entrepreneur. I was on my second year of college, and I couldn't wait to graduate, to have my own business. I knew exactly what I was going to do, and how I started imagining this is what I want. I started planning it. I started visualizing, and not knowing I didn't have any connections or the financial resources, but I knew in my heart that that's what I wanted to do, and it inspired me when I went to study abroad, to see other cultures, to see the need for languages.
Sure. Great, thank you. Where would you go, and with who, if time was not an issue? And let's add, if time or resources were not an issue.
Well, that question is a large question, because it could be political, it could be personal, it could be religious. But I think I'm going to go with the spirit, on the spiritual side. Of course, if I had the opportunity and time was not of an issue, of course I will go directly to the Almighty, the Creator of all things. Right? Yeah. I would love to just see Him before my departure on this earth. For God loved this world so much that He gave us His only Son, right? He gave us the promise of that we will be eternal. And that promise to be eternal, it is a promise, and it is a consolation that one day we will get to see all the people that has already gone. I'm getting a little emotional here, because I know that these are tough times, and most of us know somebody that have lost somebody, someone through the virus, or that had hit us personally in our families. So of course I will take that opportunity to see him and to spend time with him. But it is, I will stroll with Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa was a great leader also, and she never gave up. Her resistance, her dedication to give, and the rewarding feeling of giving, which I think is very important. Being a linguist, love is such a powerful word, love, and giving, help. Those words, um, words have a power when we utilize them, and we through our day, and we don't realize how important it is to choose our words.
Absolutely.
And what we do with others when we use our words. So yes, I will take the opportunity to do that. I will, would love to visit with Amadeus Mozart, Chopin, Beethoven, all of this. I think that that would be a phenomenal, just opportunity to see and to be with them, and to see how they discover their many talents. Beethoven being deaf at the age of 30, how did he continue to create masterful pieces? How did you know that? How were you able to touch your inner self? I think that's the solution for all of our some of the questions that we have. Sometimes a lot of people a lot of people ask that, Flor, how do you know what business to be in? What is how I have several talents. How do I know what my next, how can I find the basis for my next entrepreneurial adventure? And I always say, just follow your passion. What is your passion? What is that thing that you can do 24/7 and that you don't have to be paid for, right?
Yeah.
So that, if you know that thing that you can do 24/7 and you don't have to be remunerated with a salary of anything, of course we do this for a living, but that will be your next adventure, I think.
I think what you were just saying is almost answering the next question that I was going to have, which was, if you have any thoughts, guidance for the next generation of leaders, and I think you just have answered that question of that you follow your passion, right? And that leads to ultimate reward emotionally and any other way possible. Any other thoughts?
I just think that when we are created, when we are conceived, we come to this world and we come complete. We also come with a life sentence, right? We don't know how long we're going to be here, and all these questions of life expectancy. What do we expect from this life? But most importantly, what does life expect from us? And I think that sometimes we forget those things, that we are not eternal, and that we definitely, whatever we do in this world, whatever we chose to be our work, dedication, we always need to give back to the community. We need to help, especially in these types of days. We need to follow, as I mentioned, our passion. We need to listen deeply. We need to be respectful for others. And most definitely, we need to share with our community, and we need to help others in need.
Oh, wonderful. What a wonderful way to wrap up our conversation for the day. We'll just say again, Flor, once more, thank you. Thank you for being part of Houston. Thank you for being part of World Affairs Council and supporting our mission. And it's our absolute honor and pleasure to celebrate and recognize you as the World Affairs Council's global leader of influence. And again, the conversation has really elevated some of those important points of selection and also your accomplishments. Thank you once more. Wish you all the best, and we look forward to seeing you in person later on. Thank you again, Flor.
Likewise, Andia, thank you so much. The honor is mine. I do appreciate immensely the opportunity that you have given me to share my thoughts and my life, my experience with others, in the hopes that they also get inspired and they can see, well, if she did it, so can I.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Flor. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you. Likewise.
Bye-bye.